Hello, I'm Russ Regentz with Blue Wave Radio's Roatan Real Estate Roundup, sponsored by ReMax. Today I've got two excellent agents with the the ReMax office here, Mike Chestnut and Kyle Kuhlmeyer. Guys, thanks for joining today.
Thank you, Russ.
Hey, Russ, thank you.
So this is, as you all know, we've been doing a series of these of different topics regarding and revolving around the real estate market. Today's topic is the actual buying process. A lot of us are coming from North America or wherever you come from. Things are a little bit different here. So we've asked Mike and Kyle to really jump on and walk us through this process of actually buying your luxury home, your dream, whatever it is that you want here. So Mike, kind of walk us through the first steps, if you would, please.
Sure, I would love to. So, Russ, just to let everyone know, it's nothing to get too excited about, okay? It's a very simple process here. Cash is king, of course, but it's still a simple process. So let's just say that we move forward slightly past the negotiation stage, and we've actually have what we call a fully executed contract, which means we've an agreed upon price, buyer and seller is both happy. What has to take place? So the first things that take place in that process is, and you will be glad to know, they're going to love hearing this, is you have 7 business days to actually wire transfer your money in US dollars. Don't have to do exchanges. Don't have to make it complicated. US dollars to the seller's brokerage. That's the first step. Okay? Once you have done that, what we're going to do is move to the little bit further down the line. On after that has come, the seller will notify our brokerage and let us know that the funds are here. And then that's when we start all of our work, the due diligence. Okay, everything that takes place. In other words, why you hired a real estate agent, to make sure that there is a clear title, to absolutely make sure that there's no liens on the property, that there is a cadastral survey done and an engineered survey done, and they've been done within the last 12 months. So the property and the boundaries and everything are proper. Very, very important part of the process. Kyle, would you like to jump in?
Yeah, so at this point in the process, you've agreed on the price, the due diligence has occurred, and let me just say, our back office staff is amazing. Yes. They're the one that checks title down here. And the reason, you want your title checked is there could be a deceased person on that title and you're not going to own your property. They want to make sure the survey is accurate and up to date. And our back office goes through that as well. So once all this is taken care of, let me break down the closing costs. Closing costs are paid by the buyer, and they're going to run you approximately 6%. And that's a 3% attorney's fee, and that's across the board. You don't negotiate that. And one of the things that the attorney does is all the translation of all the documents for you. And so that's a very important role in the closing. 1.5% Honduran transfer tax, 1% Bay Islands transfer tax, and then the remaining 0.5% is roughly prorations for HOAs, property taxes,
your electric bills, cable, all of those things. Because, let's say it's simple math. If you take possession of your house on the 15th, then the buyer pays for half, the seller pays for half. But if you take it on the 10th or the 20th or whatever, those funds get properly distributed to the person that owned between the two parties.
And the buyer doesn't pay commissions. That is all paid by the seller. So it doesn't cost you anything to hire a licensed realtor, but it pays dividends in the end.
Yes.
So guys,
and another thing we want to talk about is...
Hey, Kyle, real quick.
Go ahead.
Let me ask you a quick question. In one of our previous episodes, we had talked about there's a lack of title companies here. So I wanted to kind of go back to that just for a brief second, because I think that that's a very important piece. you guys work with attorneys to make sure that those, and furthermore, ReMax is back office. So you have really two different entities helping to work to solve that problem. You just talk a little bit about the importance of that and some of the things you've seen.
I would like to actually go into an example of that right now.
Perfect.
Because I'm going to have a property that we are supposed to close on that is being pushed. And I'll give you that example. What happened was the previous owner had broke that property off. There's a small house on the back of that property that he decided he was going to keep and sell the main house. And that way, when he comes down here only a few times out of the year, he only needed that small space. Well, when the property got broken off, it was registered improperly at the municipal. So what happened was our back office caught that and our attorney caught that and said, you know what, guys, we can't close on this property. It's showing that your buyer is only buying 100 square meters when it's 700. And it's showing that the seller's keeping this 700 meters. They got reversed. Mm. So we have a problem, and it created a delay. Once again, if the previous owner would have used a real estate agent and an attorney properly to take care of all that, then it would have been caught as the property was registered correctly. It would have been caught, or incorrectly, because they are going to see the paperwork in the end and they should say, hey, wait, we got a problem here. It wasn't caught. And so now ReMax has said, you know what, Mike, we can't close on this property. We're going to have to do an extension. Now think about this. What if you were the person buying this property, you weren't using a real estate agent, no one did the due diligence, and you just bought plane tickets to come and move into your new place? Not going to happen.
No.
Disaster.
That's definitely something you don't want to do. That's
exactly.
For sure. Yeah. Well, yeah. I think that's why I go back, and Kyle, pardon me for, kind of cutting you off though, but that's one of those statements you guys have told me that's a big difference than what most people are used to, is that title process and going through that and how critical it is here.
Yeah. So to pick up on everything here, a lot of people think they need to fly back if they once they've have a contract, and everything's done by DocuSign. So you don't have to, you can do this from the comfort of your home, wherever you are, and you can assign a POA here and your closing will go through. You don't have to fly back down here and do it in person. A lot of people will, but that burden is not there if you don't want it to be.
On each one of my deals, I've made sure I flew back. Oh, honey, what a bummer. I have to go.
Yeah, there you go.
So, all right. So we get the property. You guys get everything cleared. Everybody is done. All the docs are signed. How long does it take to get title in hand? Kind of walk through that next stage once the deal is done and you own your property.
Okay. So before we get there, okay. I want to share a couple things that takes us to that process. So as I said, buying here is very simple. Once the earnest money is in and everything and the due diligence and all that takes place, right? What literally happens is about 4 or 5 days before closing, they will get another statement from our ReMax office that will say your final funds are due, and it will include the 6% closing cost. It's roughly 6%. And it will include that. And this time it's going to the buyer's agent's brokerage. Okay. So what happens is that property usually closes somewhere between 30 and 60 days. Unfortunately, well, let's back up 1 second. Our attorney, Daniel, that we use most of the time for Kyle and I, he only has 48 hours to register that property with the municipal. If he doesn't, he's paying fines. Mm. So that's why it's important to have all this stuff and done properly. But what happens is the process to actually get your title depending on how backed up they are, could be anywhere from 6 months to a year. It's nothing to panic about if you don't have your title right away. It happens. But it's a slower process working through that part of the after closing taking possession situation. Your possession, you're moved in, you're living the dream, but it's going to be a while before you actually see the paperwork.
And that's partly due to they're overwhelmed here because of the boom. They're stacked up. They just can't process them as quickly. But again, another reason to use a licensed real estate, use a company like ReMax, and a reputable attorney like we use, Daniel Matamoros.
Yeah. Well, I think that's, what I'm hearing from you guys, and let me back up as well. My first deal 18 years ago took me almost 2.5 years to get our title. Because to your point, it was backed up and it was a lot more cumbersome of a process. But when our second purchase 8 years ago was much faster. And so we got everything in hand very quickly. Michael, I like the way you put that as far as, it's a simple process. It just takes a little more time. And with you to have those nuances, the lack of a title company versus that role being filled by other professionals, which are just as competent, but they are definitely more schooled in the Honduran way of getting things done. So, yeah.
The contract's only 5 pages.
Yeah.
Do you remember the last house you bought in the U.S.?
I do.
Thick as the Bible.
That's right.
So it is simplified here. Everything's translated for you, and everything is handled through ReMax. So there's peace of mind when you make your purchase here.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle, you bring up a good phrase. I like that peace of mind because again, I remember the differences in 10 years between our purchases. The first one, I was nervous. I'm not going to lie. Until I got that title, I was really suspect. The second one was, our closing attorney. She said, "Well, I'll send it to you, and you got it." Okay, cool, no problem. Because I'd already been down that road. And you're right. That does give people some trepidation if they've never dealt with that and the time frame of it. So. Yeah,
exactly. Roatan wouldn't be booming if people didn't eventually get their title.
That's correct.
The key word is eventually. You'll get it.
Yeah.
But you do get to take possession and start your island life and your Caribbean dream.
That's right.
That's the most important thing.
You can live in paradise like we do.
Yeah. Not a bad thing, boys, huh?
No, exactly.
No. Well, guys, is there anything else you guys want to add to that buying process? Because what I'm hearing is, it's very similar. There's some different entities that provide services that some of us might be different to. The speed is a little slower. It is more island time. But as long as you're working with qualified professionals like Mike, Kyle, and ReMax, obviously, then you kind of take it easy, chill out, let it work, let your guys work for you. Is that pretty safe to say?
Very safe to say. And I will add that if you have any questions regarding the buying process that you want to dig deeper on with us, we're always available.
That's right.
You can we'll pick up the phone and talk to you about it and reiterate, what's important and once again give you peace of mind in this. It's a huge purchase. We know that. And we're here all the time to answer questions.
Yeah, the biggest thing is, Russ, is they have questions, we have answers. And we want to make sure that they're comfortable with the process step by step. That's what we're here for. We'll talk on the phone with you. We don't have to message or do WhatsApp. We literally will talk with you and make sure you feel comfortable and answer your questions. That's the important part of getting out of your comfort zone if you're a buyer, and getting more comfortable with the process. If you understand it, you're going to feel better about it.
Absolutely.
We're your boots on the ground.
Yep.
I like it. Your flip-flops on the ground, huh?
Exactly.
Well, guys, obviously, thank you so much. This is a series that we've been doing partnering with our friends at ReMax about the true real estate process. As you referenced, things are booming. There's obviously a lot of growth. There's a lot of buying. There's a lot of selling. It can be a very complicated world unless you really do employ the pros. So when you all are out there, as far as our audience goes, when you're ready to, look at your own slice of paradise and you need some flip-flops on the ground, just remember the names, Mike Chestnut, Kyle Kuhlmeyer, with ReMax. They're always here for you for that discovery meeting. If you have the process, you have questions about it, don't hesitate. Again, this is why Blue Wave Radio has decided to really partner with ReMax and really bring the truth about what real estate on Roatan is. So, fellas, I appreciate your time. Thanks very much, guys.
Thank you, Russ. Have a great day, sir.
You as well. I'm Russ Regentz with Blue Wave Radio's Roatan Real Estate Roundups, partnered, sponsored by our friends over at ReMax. So we'll see y'all next time.